Well, Michael Kelly, you just finished up your second season on House of Cards. Now, you play Doug Stamper, the chief of staff to Frank Underwood. Um, I guess I want to start out with, is this guy evil or is he just loyal?
I, I don't know. I kind of I think of him as loyal. I think we're all kind of partial to the people we play, but I think of him more as loyal.
Before he got to got to working for Frank years ago, and in terms of the backstory, what brought them together? Do you know?
No, we never really set down what it was in the past that brought them together. I mean, in my mind, it was that Doug, I play him at roughly my age, in my early 40s, and that I just figured that he went to work and met Frank at a fairly young age, and it's referenced in his past about his, that Frank has given him a chance before, and so that Frank, he went through the rough times with Doug, certainly, especially seeing as I see them as being together at a young age for both of them. So I think he kind of came up with them to a certain extent, but certainly not as his chief of staff. That took a while.
Well, you don't write the show, but do you think there's anything that Frank could do that would make Doug leave him or become unloyal to him?
I can't imagine. No, I really can't. I think of Doug as just like that rock, and no pun intended there. That rock that just is there for him. That's his life. I think with a lot of alcoholics that I've known in my life, and certainly spent a lot of time with, they tend to take that energy that they used to use for getting wasted and avoiding everything, and they tend to channel it into one thing. And so for Doug, I just figured it would make a lot of sense just to take all of that energy. I mean, every single bit of his being, and channel it into his work. So I think that's maybe to his fault how loyal is, but I don't see it as a fault, really.
Well, let me reverse that. Is Frank as loyal to Doug as Doug is to Frank? I mean, could Frank drop you in a heartbeat if he wanted to?
Probably, yes. I would like to think otherwise, but he didn't. And this season, he sort of proved that. Doug, he strayed from the path and got off course. Even though it was for the greater cause and for Francis as well. But he gave him another chance. But I do believe that, unlike Doug, there would be a point where he just cuts the tie. And I think for Doug, like, obviously there's so many things that Frank has done, and he's okay with everything. So I think there's a difference between the two like that.
We've never seen one moment of weakness from Doug, except in one particular case, and that's the prostitute. That we don't really know what his relationship or what his not ulterior, but I mean, is he in love with this girl? I mean, why is this such a weakness for him? He's hiding the fact that she's even there.
Well, I think, or at least the way that I played it, and I spoke with Bo Williman about it, and it's, for him, it's another addiction. Rachel becomes an addiction, and their relationship is as complicated as Doug is as a man. He's a very complicated person, and that relationship is extremely complicated. I think he's, over the past 2 seasons, run the gamut of emotions, from father-daughter to perhaps well, certainly they had sexual relations, but I think also emotionally, I think that she got to him in a way, and became this, like alcohol, this addiction for him, and for alcoholics, that type of personality, they cling to things really hard. So I think that she blurred some lines for him, certainly. But you've seen her, you understand.
Oh, sure. Well, it could be. I mean, we don't know. The last we see of you, you've been knocked in the head by her in the woods there. We don't. I mean, do you know even if you're coming back next year?
No, I was kind of hoping that you would have some insight for me. I don't know anything yet. Bo, that whole staff, everybody, they keep everything really, really tight to the chest. And I know that filming has been delayed some due to the whole Maryland tax situation and whatnot. And so I think I would probably find out soon what's happening, but I figured you have your finger on the pulse and might be able to tell me something.
Well, if you
Maybe
don't know,
talk
I know
about again.
for sure. When did you film season 2 last year?
We wrapped that around November.
Mm-hmm.
So we went from typically we go from about May till November. Remember our first year we literally finished, or my character finished at least on Election Day. I think we all finished on Election Day, and I actually drove back to New York and was able to vote. But it was just kind of funny that we finished House of Cards on Election Day, I thought.
So if what you're saying is that season 3 is probably going to be a little later than, I think it was February 14th this year that season 2 debuted, just because last year you were already shooting in May, and obviously you're not shooting in May this year.
Right. So I don't know for certain that it will delay the release because, I think they were done before it was released, but I think that obviously this year they were, they're kind of clever with everything they do, and releasing it on Valentine's Day I thought was a pretty good one. So I think they could have been done. Maybe they could have been done earlier in January and just waited till then to release it because it was a. No.
Well, speaking of releases, I wanted to ask you about Netflix. Obviously, one of the hottest players in the business now. But when you all signed on to this, I mean, that was a radical idea.
Yeah. And man, has it worked out great. I mean, it's. I can honestly say, especially with television, I've never had a better partnership with someone, and I believe that that's the same for everybody. I think that everybody wanted a pilot for this show, and Netflix and MRC were like, you know what? You have David Fincher, you have Beau Willimon, Kevin Spacey, Dana Bernetti, Robin Wright. Go make us a good television show. Here's a big chunk of money, and they had faith, and that allowed that group of people to make their show, which you don't get a lot these days. I mean, maybe now that Netflix, I believe, laid the groundwork for a lot of other people who are now following suit there, but they, by them saying and having the faith in us, they let us go, and I use the term us loosely, I mean, it's really them, but they let them go and make this show, build our own studio, and they never, they weren't on your back with rewrites and, well, we want this or we want that. They had faith and said, go make a great show, and so they were able to do that, and I think that says a lot about Netflix, and it shows what it can produce.
What is your feeling about the way that they release each of their given shows, which is all, the whole season in one day? What do you like that or not like that, or have an opinion about it?
It's funny you ask that because I now I love it. When we were filming, and I remember I was speaking with Peter Freelander at Netflix, I was like, I had heard that they were talking about releasing it all at once, and I was like, don't you want to do maybe 7 and then 6, or maybe at least split it up and build the anticipation for the second half? And he answered it very, very simply. He was like, look, we are giving our viewers what they want. Our viewers like to watch things, and they like to binge on it. And I was like, okay. And then as soon as it happened, and with House of Cards and Orange is the New Black and whatever, you turn one on, you watch it, it's over, and you're like, okay, one more. You're like, and I think it's pretty cool. I think it's a neat new way.
I both like it and don't like it. I like it from a fan perspective because in your particular case, it came out on a Friday, and I was done with it by Sunday night. I mean, it's like popcorn. I mean, you just couldn't wait to see what happened next. But yeah. From a public standpoint, it's hard to discuss it with people. You got some friends that have seen the whole thing like you have. Others have only watched the first episode or none at all. Some are halfway through. I mean, you don't have that experience, I think, that you do on some shows where basically if it's week by week, that it's unraveling like chapters in a book in a way, and
right.
And where everybody else stands as well.
Yeah, and that's really interesting, because you see, or I'll see people on the street and they'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I can't believe you did this, and the person standing next to them is like, dude, I haven't seen the end yet, so and even myself, I was on Twitter and someone said something, and I I replied to it, and the guy got really upset, and he was like, dude, thanks a lot, man. I mean, even from the actors, we're going to get a spoiler. And this was months after it was released, and I just kind of went on the ridiculous assumption that everyone had seen it already when I myself hadn't even seen it. Being away shooting, I've still yet to see the second season because I just got back. And it's weird in that way, you know, and I feel for people who get spoiled because not everyone wants to watch it like that. But if they do, they just got to stay on so if they want to watch it that way, they got to stay on social media, I guess.
Well, that's the case with so many shows now. If you don't watch something pretty much immediately, let's say like Game of Thrones this week with a big death,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you can't hardly go online, especially, and not see something that you didn't mean to see.
Yeah, I mean, it could even be a Yahoo page, you know, like, you know, and they put it in a headline, you know. A lot of people were really great about House of Cards and excuse me, and writing the articles that they wrote this year. They would, you know, title it spoiler, and then proceed to write the article, or do not continue to read this article if you haven't watched all 13 episodes or what have you. And I think people are starting to do it that way when writing about it, but it's tough, man. But at the same time, maybe it makes people watch it a little quicker too.
Right, right. Well, the main person you work with on the show is Kevin Spacey. Obviously, you're his chief of staff. What is he like as an actor to work opposite?
Oh man, I mean, as someone I can honestly say that I've really admired and looked up to and wanted to always wanted to work alongside, because I just thought he always did such fantastic work. To get to do it, you know, and kind of get to go to work every day and watch. I was just so excited to have the job. I was like, I'm going to get to go work with Kevin Spacey every day and see how he does it. And that to me was such a treat. He's a great guy and really funny. Like, a lot of people don't realize just how funny and smart the guy is. Intimidatingly smart.
I love it when I see that he's going to be a talk show guest, because I know he's going to bring it.
Yeah, right. I mean, the impersonations and just his wealth of knowledge about everything. Like, you can talk to the guy about anything, but especially theater or old film or what have you. He knows literally everything, I think. Between him and Will Willimon, I'm like, I feel like I'm in third grade standing around.
Well, as an actor opposite him, what is he doing that other actors aren't? What makes him good?
You know, I think his prep work is so extensive. I think he comes to work every day, which is a great example he provides for everyone else. You know, he comes so ready and has, for the amount of work the guy has in the show, you know, for the amount of dialogue that he has, the amount of scenes that he has, for him to come to work as prepared as he is every day, I don't know how he gets much sleep during the season, because he's so on it and asking questions that sometimes I'm like, wow, I do a lot of prep work and I didn't even think of that. You know, like, he's really on top of everything. And so I would say it's probably his prep work. You know, obviously building the character long before we ever started filming with the year production of Richard III that he did, that just helped to build that character. And then all the research he did, his knowledge of optics was very extensive as well. So he kind of.
Listen, we're an awards website. I wanted to ask you a couple of Emmy-related questions. What was it like for your whole team to be nominated for Best Drama Series last year at the Emmys? David Fincher won for director, and I believe your casting director won. What was it like with that nomination for Drama Series?
It was amazing. I remember I was with Joe Hips from MRC and Peter Freelander from Netflix. I stay in an apartment there in Baltimore, and they were at the hotel across the street. And I emailed him the night before. I was like, "Hey, what are you doing for the announcements in the morning?" He's like, "We're gonna watch it in my room. Come over." So I went over there. We had breakfast, and I swear I felt like such a kid, man. Like we were jumping up and down, like just all over the hotel room. Oh my god! Oh my god! When it was announced, we just, you know, because it kind of was that, you know, when we were making the show, we didn't even know if it would be. There was a lot of talk that it wouldn't even be eligible for an Emmy because it was new. And, well, was it television or was it, you know? So there was all that talk, and then to actually find out that we were eligible was thrilling, and then to actually get nominated was just, I mean, it was just so grateful, you know. Like, it was really, really exciting. Felt like a kid.
Well, listen, you're a strong contender for that drama supporting actor category this summer when the ballots come out. You haven't been nominated before, but so you may not know this, but if you get nominated over in July, you've got to pick one episode from this past season to submit to the jury. Do you have a particular one in mind? Was there one favorite one for you? Or for your character?
Yeah, I don't. Man, first of all, I would just be beyond honored, excited, whatever. I'd be out of my mind, and there's so many great actors out there this year. To be honest, I briefly said before, I haven't seen the season because I've just been away. The show was released while I was out of the country, and I was unable to watch it, and I just got back, and I've been back for a week, but family's kind of taken over, got two little ones. So I'll get to see, but I do know that my manager, and thinking back and having read it, I don't remember exactly what happens in episode 11, but I know towards the end there it sort of gets pretty crazy. But it's interesting because Doug is, it's not like he has like a real standout thing that he does in any one particular episode. It's like he's. I don't know. It's hard. First of all, it's hard to kind of even talk about yourself like that. But it's I don't know. I'll stick with my manager on episode 11. He knows a lot more than I do.
Your manager will know, and your the folks at Netflix, especially in that department, they really know their stuff, and they know how to choose those. So definitely listen to them as well.
Yeah, I will.
Well, you mentioned being out of the country. I want to know more about Everest because I was reading about it online, and Robin Wright, you get to work with her again in that movie, along with just a huge, well-known cast. Tell us what the movie's about and what you play in
it. The film. Excuse me. The film is it's about the disaster that happened on top of Mount Everest in 1996, when there's several groups, but our story focuses on the two groups. John Krakauer wrote a really great book called Into Thin Air. It's not particularly based on John's version because so many people wrote books about what happened, but basically a bunch of climbers went to the top of Everest, perfect storm hits, and even though they know exactly where these guys were, there was nothing that could be done. They were stuck up on top of the mountain, and that was that. And a lot of them died. I'm very fortunate. I played John Krakauer in that, and to get to play someone who I admire and look up to like that was a real treat, and sort of create this character based on a man who's still alive. Was really great.
It sounds like it might have been one of the toughest, physically challenging kind of movies that you've done.
Oh my God, Chris, it's nuts. I've never. It was definitely the hardest job that I've ever loved. It was. We started off in Nepal and we did a fast acceleration up to just shy of base camp, which is, I think we were about 15,500 feet was our highest point, which is, I think we were higher than anything in the continental U.S. or roughly thereabouts. So we were really high, and your oxygen is considerably less there. So the last day there, honestly walked like 30, 40 steps and walking with a backpack and your gear on and stuff, but you would get 30, 40 steps and be like, feeling like you had just run like a mile at a very good clip. So it was really, really tough like that. And then from there we went to the Italian Alps up near Austria there, and literally worked 6-day work weeks, and every day we would go to the top of this mountain. It was only like 10 or 11,000 feet, I think, there, so the altitude wasn't a problem, but just physically climbing every day and all that gear. And then it was Groundhog Day. You go back down the mountain, eat at the hotel with the whole cast, back up the mountain the next morning. It's like it was really, really challenging. And then it got a little easier as we got to Rome. We did the base camp, and then we were in London for the stage at the end there. So it did get to lighten up a little towards the end, but it was really tough. Lost about an inch on my waist in the mountains there. It was pretty nuts.
I thought you were going to say lost an inch on your height.
Probably.
It was that grueling that you'd lost the actual height. Well, listen, when will that film be out, by the way?
I think they're saying September 2015 now. A considerable amount.
Oh, it's going to be one of those that they really spend a lot of time in post-production and so forth.
Yeah. We had to build the actual summit of Everest on the 007 stage there in London, and so they built a 40-foot summit, 35-foot summit on a stage. So the summit and some of the stuff higher up on the mountain obviously had to be done with green screen.
Well, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. I'm so glad for an actor that's been working a good long while to finally get the kind of recognition he deserves. Just having a role like this on House of Cards, I think, is so good for us and so good for your career.
Thank you, Chris. That means a lot. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
And good luck on the Emmys this summer.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me on. Take care.